I felt inspired to film today. So that is exactly what we are doing. Has you by the neck by the first chapter. I've kind of been wanting to reread this book and see if I really just didn't read it at the right time or I just really don't like it. And I ended up finishing this book in one sitting. This is the perfect book for summer. Next question is a book you have reread the most. Never speaks another word. Also, I just think of Rune Dannon and I'm like, I want to be your girlfriend so bad. Hello book friends, welcome or welcome back to my channel. My name is Caitlin and I hope you are doing so lovely. Welcome. It has been a while since I've recorded a Sunday video, and if you guys don't know why, go watch my weekly vlogs. I kind of explain it all, but I felt inspired to film today, so that is exactly what we are doing. And we're in a different setup. If you don't watch my weekly vlogs, I changed my desk area. Sneak peek. It's beautiful. We love it. So I thought I'd film in front of here, kind of switch it up instead of being in front of the bookshelves. So today's video is going to be a book tag video, and it's going to be the book recommendations tag. I have seen this going around booktube, and when searching for stuff to kind of inspire me, a lot of the times one of my favorite videos to do is book tags because they're really fun and it kind of reminds me of all the books I have and have read and reminds me I really love reading. So that's what we're doing. We're doing a book tag video. So let's just get right in the video, shall we? If you can see besides me, I have not one but 2 stacks of books to go through. I also have the questions pulled up on my Notion because I can't remember them all and I can't remember all my answers for all of them, so I pre-wrote them down, pre-thought about it, and I record on my phone, so I can't have my phone. So they're up on my Notion on my computer. First question is a book you tell people that is your favorite. And this one is a new favorite, but whenever I think about a favorite book, I think of this book, and this is Lessons in Chemistry by Bonnie Garmis. This book, you guys, is incredible. If you have not read this book, I highly recommend you to read it. From the first chapter to the last chapter, it is just so incredible. It's enthralling. It has you by the neck by the first chapter. Okay, maybe not that vicious, but you kind of know what I'm saying. Let me read you guys the summary on this book because, as you guys know, I do not do summaries very well for books. So let's just go ahead and read it. Chemist Elizabeth Zote is not your average woman. In fact, Elizabeth Zote would be the first to point out that there is no such thing. But it's the early 1960s, and her all-male team at Hastings Research Institute takes a very unscientific view of equality, except for one, Calvin Evans, the lonely, brilliant, Nobel Prize-nominated grudge holder who falls in love with, of all things, Hermione. True chemistry results. But like science, life is unpredictable, which is why a few years later, Elizabeth Zote finds herself not only a single mother, but the reluctant star of America's most beloved cooking show, Supper at 6. Elizabeth's unusual approach to cooking combined 1 tablespoon of acetic acid with a pinch of sodium chloride provides a revolutionary. But as her following grows, not everyone is happy because, as it turns out, Elizabeth Zote isn't just teaching women to cook, she's daring them to change the status quo. I loved this book so much, and that is why I tell people it is my favorite book. Next question is a book that is your guilty pleasure. Now, I don't have one, if I'm going to be honest. I was looking at my bookshelves, I'm currently looking at them now, and I just don't see a book that I really like that, despite what people say, I still like it. So, I mean, there could be one on my shelf, but it's not coming to mind. So for this question, I want you guys to leave in the comments, what is your guilty pleasure? I would love to know what your guilty pleasure read is. So maybe then I can read it and see if it really truly is a guilty pleasure. Next question is a book that everyone loved, but you didn't. And I'm gonna go with The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue. I wanted to love this book so much, but that was not the case with this book. I can admit the story of this and the writing is incredibly beautiful, but it was so slow for me. It is a character-driven story, and I am not one for just character-driven stories, so they tend to be very slow when I read them, and I typically don't like them. Now, when I read this, it was very early on into me rediscovering my love for reading. So I don't know if it wasn't the right time or if it's just the book or if it's me. I've kind of been wanting to reread this book and see if I really just didn't read it at the right time or I just really don't like it. I don't know, maybe I will, but for that question, I'm gonna go with The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue. If you guys don't know what this book is, which I'm sure you guys know by now, but let me give you a little summary. France, 1714. A desperate woman makes a desperate deal in the dark, a bargain to live forever, but be remembered by none. So begins The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue. Shadow muse to artist, throughout history forgotten friend, confident and lover, slipping away with the morning light, Addie passes through life's desperate only to leave a trace of herself, until the day she walks back into a small bookshop in Manhattan and meets Henry, who remembers her. After 300 years, Addie's life is restarting, but the devil never plays fair. As Henry and Addie's lives start to intertwine, they must face the consequences of the decisions they've made and the prices to be paid. Now, that sounds incredible, right? It just wasn't to me, and I'm really sad about it because now reading that, I'm like, ooh, maybe I should reread that because that does sound really good. But that's that. The next question is a book you read the fastest, and for that one, I knew right away, Anxious People by Frederick Backman. I remember exactly when I read this book. It was a Wednesday evening. At the time and place in my life, I was living with my parents for a short period amount of time. I worked Sunday through Wednesday. I had a very odd schedule. I was very lonely. I had a lot of stuff going on, and I just kind of fell in love with reading, and Anxious People was one of the first books I picked up again. And I remember just pulling it out of my little tiny shelf that I had back then and sitting down on the couch with some snacks. My parents were watching a program, and I just sat down with this book, and I ended up finishing this book in one sitting. I legit did not move from the couch. I remember finishing this book at 2 a.m. and I was like, oh, because my parents were like, we're going to bed, good night. I'm like, I can't, I need to finish this book. I absolutely love this book. So what this book is about: looking at real estate isn't usually a life or death situation, but an apartment open house becomes just that when a failed bank robber bursts in and takes a group of strangers hostage. The captives include a recently retired couple who relentlessly hunt down fixer-uppers to avoid the painful truth that they can't fix up their own marriage. There's a wealthy banker who has been too busy making money to care about anyone else, a young couple who are about to have their first child but can't seem to agree on anything, from where they want to live to how they met in the first place. Add to the mix an 87-year-old woman who has lived long enough not to be afraid of someone waving a gun in her face, a flustered but still ready to make a deal real estate agent, and a mystery man who has locked himself in the apartment's only bathroom, and you've got the worst group of hostages in the world. Each one of them carries a lifetime of grievances, hurts, secrets, and passions. They are ready to boil over. None of them is entirely who they appear to be, and all of them, but the bank robber included, desperately crave some sort of rescue. As the authorities and the media surround the premises, these reluctant allies will reveal surprising truths about themselves and set in motion a chain of events so unexpected that they can hardly explain what happens next. Honestly, everyone go read this book. It is so good. Next question is a book that deserves more hype. And that one, I'm going to go with The People We Keep. I heard nothing about this book. Nothing on booktube, bookstagram, book talk. So when I got it in my book of the month box, I remember picking it and I was like, nah, I don't know. This book doesn't interest me. One random day I picked it up and fell in love with this book. This book is so good. It's about found family. It has that found family trope. So if you love that, you would love this book. It's got music in it. It's got romance. It's got literally anything and everything you want in a book. This is it. And it's very good. So let me tell you what it's about. Little River, New York, 1994. April Sawick is living in a motorless motorhome that her father won in a poker game. Failing out of school, picking up shifts at Margot's Diner, she's left fending for himself in a town where she's never quite felt at home. When she borrows her neighbor's car to perform at an open mic, she realizes her life could be bigger than where she came from. After a fight with her dad, April packs up her stuff and leaves for good, sending off on a journey to find a life that's all hers. Driving without a chosen destination, she stops in Ithaca. Her only plan is to survive, but she looks for work. She finds a kindred sensing of belonging at Cafe de Candace, a local coffee shop. Still, somehow, it doesn't make sense to her that her life could be this easy. The more she falls in love with her friends in Ithaca, the more she can't shake that feeling that they'll hurt her the way she's been hurt. As April moves through the world, meeting people who feel like home, she chronicles her life in the songs she writes and discovers that's where she came from, doesn't dedicate who she has to be. It is so good. Please read this book. This is the perfect book for summer. Like, if you have some sort of beach vacation, lake vacation, waterfront location, just a vacation in general, get this book and take it with you if you have not read it yet, because it is the best summer read ever. Next question is a book that is becoming a movie/TV show, and that is The Last Thing He Told Me. I had no idea this was becoming a TV show. Apple TV is producing it. It's actually coming out April 14th, so very, very soon. And I read this book when it first came out, so 2021, a couple years now, and loved it. It's a thriller, but it's not a psychological thriller. It's more like a mystery, like, okay, what's going on type thing. And I just think it's really good. It's one of those cozy thrillers you can read. So let me tell you guys what this is about. Before Owen Michaels disappears, he manages to smuggle a note to his beloved wife of 1 year, protect her. Despite her confusion and fear, Hannah Howell knows exactly to whom the note refers to: Owen's 16-year-old daughter, Bailey. Bailey, who lost her mother tragically as a child. Bailey, who wants absolutely nothing to do with her new stepmother. As Hannah's increasingly desperate calls to Owen go unanswered as the FBI arrests Owen's boss, a U.S. Marshal, and a federal agent arrive at her home unannounced, Hannah quickly realizes her husband isn't who he said he was, and that Bailey just may hold the key to figuring out Owen's true identity and why he really disappeared. Hannah and Bailey set out to discover the truth, but as they start putting together the pieces of Owen's past, they soon realize they're also building a new future, one neither of them could have anticipated. Dun dun dun. So read this book and then go watch the show on Apple TV. I know I am. I might just get like a free trial of Apple TV and then cancel it after that. I don't know. We'll see. Actually, I think my mom has Apple TV. But despite that, I will be watching the show. Next question is a book you have reread the most. If you've been watching me for a while, you know it is Daisy Jones and the Six by Taylor Jenkins Reid. I have read this book 3 times now. I audiobooked it the first time, read it physical the second time. I actually had COVID when I reread it. Sad. And then I reread it recently before the show came out. Loved it even more. Look at my tabs. I mean, hello. I don't feel the need to tell you guys what this book is about because I feel like everyone and their mother now knows what this book is about. But if you don't, just know you are following a band named The Six, and it is made up of the Dunn brothers, Billy and Graham. There's Warren, there's Eddie. In the book, there is Paul, and then there is also Karen. And then they get introduced to Miss Daisy, who's kind of had not really a structured growing up. Her parents could care less about her. She was on the streets of Hollywood very young, getting into all the alcohol, the drugs, being introduced to sex very early on, but she has always loved writing songs, and she gets noticed one day and she joins the Six. Basically, they make a song together, they go on tour, and then she officially joins the Six. And this book is ultimately about the events leading up to the last concert they ever had, which is at the Chicago Stadium. It was their world tour. They were the biggest band in the world, and that was their last show ever, and they just never get back together. And this book is told in interview style, which is really, really good. Now, the show just came out, and we're not going to talk about the show. I don't want to talk about it, but the book is incredible, so highly recommend. A book from a genre you don't typically read, and that is sci-fi. I do not read the sci-fi genre. It kind of intimidates me, if I'm going to be honest. I just really haven't found a sci-fi book that I love. Any sci-fi book I read, I'm just like, nah. But I recently got sent an ARC, and that is Made of Stars by Jenna Voris. And this, think Bonnie and Clyde, but in space. This follows Shane and Ava, who are a team. He steals the aircraft, she charms their mark, and together they take what they need. Not even their distracting chemistry could get in the way until Shane was caught and left to rot on a prison moon. Now freshly escaped from confinement and shimmering with anger, he has his sights set on their biggest job yet. Cyrus just graduated from Flight Academy with a shiny new position lineup, reporting to a well-respected general. On his very first assignment, he stops the outlaws in their track, or would have if his annoyingly handsome co-pilot hadn't fallen for Ava's deception. But when Shane uncovers a top-secret plot that would leave his and Ava's home world at the mercy of Cyrus's military leaders, he makes it his mission to thwart them at all costs. It isn't long before the two of them make interstellar headlines with each new heist. And thanks to a chance run-in with the rebels, Cyrus is caught between two versions of the truth. He must pick a side and fast because Shane and Ava will bring the planet to its knees or die trying. That sounds incredible. Definitely planning on picking this up sometime in the near future. But next question is a book that deserves all the hype, and that is Miss Belladonna by Adeline Grace. I love this book. This book is exactly what you want in a YA fantasy. It's so good. Also, the cover is gorgeous. I think this is technically a gothic fantasy though, but whatever. The naked cover is even prettier. Like, are you joking? Oh, it is so good. This book definitely deserves all the hype it has gotten surrounding book talk, bookstagram, booktube. I love this book. Everyone was talking about this book when it first came out, and I was like, yeah, that's a must read for me, and it's definitely, yep, it lives up to the hype. So let me tell you what this book is about. For as long as Signa Fire has been alive, the people in her life have fallen like stars. Orphaned as a baby, 19-year-old Signa has been raised by a string of guardians, each more interested in her wealth than her well-being. Each has met an untimely end. Her remaining relatives are the elusive Hawthorns, an eccentric family living at the Thorn Grove, an estate both glittering and glimmering in its patriotic mourns his late wife through wild parties while his son grapples for control of the family's mourning reputation, and his daughter suffers from a mysterious illness, but when their mother's restless spirit appears claiming she was poisoned, Signa realizes that the family she depends on could be in grave danger and enlists the help of a surly stable boy to hunt down the killer. However, Signa's best chance of uncovering the murder is an alliance with Death himself, a fascinating, dangerous shadow who has never been far from her side. Though he's made her life a living hell, Death shows Signa that their growing connection may be more and powerful and more irresistible than she ever dare imagined. Death being a character in this was really cool to read and really interesting. So if you're looking for a new read, this is it. Next question is a book you usually give out as a recommendation when asked, and that is The Silent Patient by Alex Michaelides. And hear me out, okay? I know a lot of people have a lot of mixed opinions on this. I've seen so many people say that was so boring, like I guessed the twist, blah, 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 which to those people, I think you're lying. I think you're lying. I'm not calling out your character or anything, but I think you're lying because this twist was one of the best twists I have ever read. And there has never been a thriller that I have read that has lived up to this twist. And I think that's why I can't find a thriller I love, because this twist, I go back to it. I'm like, that was not that twisty because this is twisty. The twist, I'm telling you guys, when he dropped the twist in this book, my mouth dropped. So I always tell people to read this book because one, it's short. I do tell people going into it, it may be a little slow in the beginning, but just get to the middle and it's amazing. So, the summary of this book. Alicia Bernstein's life is seemingly perfect. A famous painter, married to an in-demand fashion photographer, she lives in a grand house overlooking a park in one of London's most desirable areas. One evening, her husband Gabriel returns home late from work, and Alicia shoots him 5 times in his face and never speaks another word. Alicia's refusal to talk or give any kind of explanation turns a domestic tragedy into something far grander, a mystery that captures the public imagination and casts Alicia into notoriety. The price of her art skyrockets, and she, the silent patient, is hidden away from the tabloids and spotlight at the Grove, a secure psychiatric unit in North London. Criminal psychotherapist Theo Faber is captivated by Alicia's story and jumps at the opportunity to work with her. His determination to get her to talk and unravel the mystery of why she shot her husband takes him down a path more unexpected, more terrifying than he's ever imagined, a search for the truth that threatens to consume him. So good. Please read this if you haven't. Next question is a book that has your favorite characters, and I'm going to go with a duology, and that is the Six of Crows duology. I love these characters more than life itself. Honestly, when I read this series, for one, this is the series that got me back into the fantasy world and got me back into loving it so much and reminded me why I love fantasy so much. I do think that all the hype it did have when this series kind of first came to fruition, it definitely deserves it. I just think these group of characters are they just have my heart. And I want more of this. Like, I honestly probably could keep reading 5 books. And I wish this was a trilogy and not a duology like we got with the Shadowhunters. Like, I wish... Shadowhunters. I wish this was a trilogy like we got with Shadow and Bone. Like, I wish Shadow and Bone was only duology and this was a trilogy, because Shadow and Bone to me was good, yes, but I think it was a little bit boring compared to this. So, if you don't know what this kind of duology is about, which I'm sure you have because it's been around for a while, I'm just going to read the first summary, and not the second one, because I feel like the second one would give away. Ketterdam, a bustling hub of international trade where anything can be had for the right price. And no one knows better than the criminal prodigy Kaz Brecker. Kaz is offered a chance at a deadly heist that could make him rich beyond his wildest dreams, but he can't pull it off alone. A convict with a thirst for revenge, a sharpshooter who can't walk away from a wager, a runaway with a privileged past, a spy known as the Wrath, a heartrender using her matches to survive the slums, a thief with a gift for unlikely escapes. Kaz's crew are the only ones who might stand between the world and destruction if they don't kill each other first. Oh, it's so good. Next question is a book you wish you could live in. And for that, I'm gonna go with Crescent City. Because how cool would it be to just be a part of this world? If you've read this series, you know.
Also, I just think of Rue and Dannon, and I'm like, I want to be your girlfriend so bad.
So that's mainly why. And if you guys don't know what this series is about, I'm sure y'all do. I'm sure y'all do. I'm not going to read the summary because the summary, I think, gives away something that I wish the summary didn't even say. So my advice going into the book is do not read the summary because it gives the thing that happens in the beginning away. And I did not know that happened because I did not read the summary. I just saw Sarah J. Maas had a new book out and I said, I'm going to listen to that. So when that happened, shocked. So that's my answer to that question. Next question is a book you thought you would hate, but you ended up loving. And that is 7 Days in June. I thought for sure I would hate this book. I was like, oh yeah, I'm going to hate this book. No, I ended up really loving this book. This has become a new favorite romance of mine. I don't really say that lightly because I don't really like romance books. I've come to learn I just don't like them. So for me to love a romance, kind of a big thing. So in this book, Eva Mercy is a single mom, best-selling erotica writer who is feeling pressed from all sides. Shane Hall is a reclusive, award-winning novelist who, to everyone's surprise, shows up in New York. When Shane and Eva meet unexpectedly at a Black literary event, sparks fly. But what no one knows is that 15 years earlier, teenage Eva and Shane spent one crazy torrid week madly in love and have been secretly writing to each other in their books ever since. Over the next 7 days, amidst a steamy Brooklyn summer, Eva and Shane reconnect, but Eva's wary of the man who broke her heart. Before Shane disappears again, she needs a question answered. I really like this book, and I really recommend this book. Next question is a book that made you cry. I don't have a physical book with me because I read it on Kindle, and that is Under the Whispering Door by TJ Klune. This book, I had no idea what this book was about going into it. And when I read this book, I kind of read it at the right time. I did read it at the right time because I had just lost my dog and I was struggling really hard with kind of finding peace with it. I was feeling very angry. I was feeling very just like sad, of course. I was feeling all the emotions you feel when it comes to death. And this book deals with that. This book, we follow Wallace, who was like a very unlikable man. And he dies of a heart attack and he gets brought to Sharon's Crossing, which is kind of this point before people cross over into whatever you think the afterlife is. Heaven, in the sky, whatever you think that is what this book is. Like, that's where they cross over. And Sharon's Crossing is a tea shop. It is owned by this guy named Hugo, and the tea shop has like real life customers. They of course just can't see like the ghost. And there is the Reaper, whose name is May, I believe. It doesn't say. I think her name is May. I could be very wrong. And there is also Hugo's father and Hugo's dog is there. And both the father and the dog is a ghost. And this book made me laugh and cry. The hardest I probably ever cried with a book. Especially towards the end of it, dealing with the whole crossing over and all that. I'm not going to say what, but it hit me. And I was just like, oh my God. And literally, I probably cried for the next probably 2 hours after finishing the book. And TJ Klune is a fantastic author. He's very cozy with his books. They are definitely a book you can curl up with a cup of coffee, a cup of tea, a cup of warm drink, or a snack or something, and just sit on the couch and read them all day and just get lost in the world. I think TJ Klune has a very special like niche with his books, and they kind of feel like a middle grade book for an adult, if that is a thing. But that's kind of what TJ Klune's writing feels like, and I recommend everyone to read this book. The last question is a book you wish you could read for the first time. And I thought about this question a lot, and the one book series I keep coming back to is a very well-known book series, and I'm not original by this, no means, but this is a book series I remember reading back in like 2015 when it first came out, or one of the books had just came out, and it was at a time in my life where I was at my lowest, and I would come home from work and just sleep the rest of the day. I was just not well, and I turned to books, and I found booktube back then, and it was back when people would do release day vlogs, and they would vlog their experience of reading a series, or like do endless book haul. Like, it was back in the good days of booktube. I mean, booktube is still good, but you know what I mean if you've watched booktube for a while. And I was introduced to this series, and I remember getting the first book, and I remember thinking, holy crap, I love this feeling. I love being lost in the world. I love not thinking about what I have going on in my life. I love not being in my head, and because I'm a person that's in their head a lot, so for me to be taken out of my head, anything I love. And that is A Court of Thorns and Roses, and this is actually my original copy. And not only did I read this book in like 2 sittings, I think, but I love this book. And well, okay, I read this book for the first time, and I just remember feeling all those feelings that you feel when you read a book that you absolutely love, that it's a 5-star book for you. And then I reread it recently again, and it had been, what, 7 years? And I thought, okay, surely it'll feel like the first time again. It was not as enjoyable as I remember it, and that is why I wish I could reread this book for the first time, mind blank, don't even remember anything, because it just wasn't what it was back then. And that makes me so sad, because this is the reason why I literally found something that I love. So, okay, you guys, that is it for today's video. If you guys are gonna do this video, let me know, because I would love to see your answers. Or if you're not gonna do a video, just answer the questions yourself in the comments. I will leave all the questions in my description. And yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, give it a big thumbs up. Make sure you guys are liking and subscribing, because I would love to have you here. If you don't follow me on my social medias, they are always linked down below for you guys. I am on TikTok and Instagram, and I hope you guys are doing well, and I hope you guys are reading lots of good books, and I will catch you guys in my next video.